Mika here, welcome to the channel. And what if you could have both Ray and Mika all in one kit? Well, that is the question that devs wanted to have answered for Narja's reveal, because on today's stream, we actually got the full kit breakdown. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on her overall kit, going over epiphany by epiphany, and have a recap at the end of, well, if I think she is a must pull or not. And spoiler, this is a absolutely absurd character for all the reasons that you are about to see. So if you want to support more videos like this for Chaos Zero Nightmare, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But let's dive right into it. And yes, we do have her full kit up front for the base cards. Now, notably, the more important thing is going to be the epiphanies, which we're going to cover. But I want to talk about her two buffs up front in this kind of top right corner. So we have Voracity and Predation. A lot of our cards are going to mention both of these. But an important thing to note here with Voracity is when hitting with an attack card, 40% fixed heal. This is going to be any attack card that you play. So multi-attackers are going to get favored, or things like Serennial, right? You're going to be burning through the stacks, but you're going to be able to heal a bunch. And then most important here is that if health is 50% or higher, plus 30% damage. Now, this is important because it is a morale and a half buff effectively. So based on her overall kit, this is just going to be a permanent buff that she has, but then also the Predation ability, if in a Voracity state, plus 80% damage amount dealt by attack cards. This is going to be equal to 4 stacks of morale. So already baked into her kit, before we even talk about anything else, this is going to have a huge amount of damage amplification. Of course, this is going to be best for characters that are more multi-hit compared to, say, Haru, who's going to do, 2,000 damage in a single swing. But that said, this is still a noticeable buff that even if she takes more of a buffer role for your team, you don't have any downside compared to Ray, who can only buff maybe 0 or 1 cost cards. This is now saying, well, any attack that you want to boost is going to get this significant amount of an increase. So keep those two in mind. And, we do have the cards overall here for those who just want to see them at their base forms. Of course, again, I care more about the epiphanies, but the one thing to mention here, right, is Mealtime. It is a retain card and is a unique card. And, well, to spoil some of this in case I forget to mention a little bit later on, is that Narja also has a lot of unique cards, meaning she's going to be insanely good for Chaos in making sure that you can copy the right cards. Much like Mika, or even some cases like Chizuru or Ray I know people have been using, where you just want a higher copy of unique cards to have in the deck to make sure you're always hitting those right copy targets. Well, Narja has one right away with Mealtime, and then she actually has 3 more that you can do, making her technically the highest unique character in the game, meaning that she is going to be the best partner technically to bring into your chaos runs for the best possible copy chance for those sweet decks you've been trying to get of like 4 of a single card. So for that alone, that she's going to have some value in helping out players, especially if you either don't have a fully like E6 Mika, or whichever one is her proper healing on hit as well, and all that stuff, that Narja is just going to be a great replacement. But for Mealtime, what I really like about this one, and of course it is going to be free, long story short, as you're playing through the kit, you'll have a much reduced cost here. You get to increase the healing amount, so it's actually a 420% heal, which is going to be very similar to Mika's Blessing of the Waves card, which has been kind of her oopsies, have the heal when we need it, right? So they both have retain, they both are massive heal amounts. But then on top of that, you are going to get a damage dealing amount to all enemies, which can just be really nice for things like the tower. For AoE based fights, there's multiple adds. And then on top of that, you're also going to get 4 stacks of Predation, which is going to be effectively that morale boost, right? Because each one of those stacks are decreasing, it is just going to say, hey, your next 4 attacks are going to get plus 80% damage, or 4 stacks of morale. So when you add all of this together, right, you are getting what is going to be effectively a perma 5 buff morale, but just going throughout the rest of the turn. So I mean, for those that know, like if you've been playing Ray, if you are playing multi-hit style of characters, I mean, that is no small amount of damage. Now, the big question that we're gonna have to wait and see is, what does meal time look like from a overall application of how many times we're using it, how quickly can we get that predation stacking back up again? That is definitely something we'll have to wait for more gameplay, but enough out of the way, let's just get into the cards themselves. So up first, we have Shackles of Hunger, and I'm just going to go through my thoughts on all 5. I'm going to sit down and think about this and leave it for the full guide review, but just talk through the cards and talk about some maybe high-level applications up front. So the one thing I will note immediately as we're looking through this kit is that while she is a controller and while her defense-based stats are going to be a little bit lower than, say, a Vanguard comparatively, right? A lot of her cards are going to be defense-based as well as having, a good amount of attack focused style of cards, meaning that she does want to do damage. And of course, the way her kit works with some of that flat healing that we were talking about, we do want her to deal some damage. Now, notably, if you really want to amp up the damage, one of the things that stuck out to me right away is that she technically still partners very well with Ray if you want to go all in for buffing, because now we're going to have Narja, who's going to be providing a lot of buffs. We have Ray, who is going to be providing a lot of direct damage to things like Shackles of Hunger, right? Let's just talk about the first one. And attunement is when you draw it that you get the 6 Voracity, and again, I have the stacks up here. So with Ray, we're able to give this, if you want to use her Condensation of Darkness, is going to be plus 100, so it's 136 times 4 attack. If we want to use Ray's normal cards that just give, hey, if it's cost 1, give it plus 60%, or maybe you want to mix and match, and you can use the one that's 1 and lower, gets 40%, right? There is a lot of damage stacking that you're going to get here. So while Shackles of Hunger, the first epiphany, looks lower on base value, keep in mind that you are going to be getting plus 30 from Voracity on top of this, as well as a plus 80 if you have Predation as well. So there is a ton of damage stacking that you can do here. The second one, at the start of turn, if Voracity was activated 3 or more times, so again, for multi-attacks, move this card to hand, and then has Voracity, the draw effect. So this one is going to have less hits, but if you are using a character like Serenial, spoiler, and you're doing those multiple attacks, or something like Chizuru, you're able to get a lot of these attacks spamming back to hand. Now, of course, the immediate question that pops up for me is, well, how are we getting additional stacks of Voracity, and how are we really getting her damage amplification? That is one thing that remains top of mind for me. Add 1 hit for each 4 Voracity owned, so max of 3. So this is a 60 times 6 now. So again, if you are going all in on a damage dealing Narja and you want to partner with Ray, I mean, this is an absurd amount of damage boosting that you can get for a healer. So the number one thing I'm going to be excited to see is what does her damage look like at 60 with all of these epiphanies together, and how we ultimately want to build her. Then we have Shackles of Hunger with Retain, decrease Voracity by max 5, plus 40 damage increase amount to the next used attack card for each amount decrease. If 5 is decreased, 3 Predation. So this is now going to change into if I have 1 card that is my all-in strike ability, we're going to save this until we have enough stacks, reduce that amount, and then get a max amount of, because it says max by 5, so you get plus 40 damage amount to the next card. And then on top of that, if you remove stacks, you're going to get the 3 Predation instantly, meaning 3 hits worth of 4 morale buff. So a great way to add up the damage there if you really want to. And then Shackles of Hunger for the last one, 72% shield. So now finally a defensive card if you want to build her as a more all-in support. Decrease Voracity by max 3, repeat for each amount decrease. So a very nice zero-cost repeated shield, because she is going to be defense-based, because we know that she is going to want to stack up that defense both for attack cards and for how controllers work with healing. This actually becomes a really good shield card. So another surprise here by the devs that just off this one card and just talking through all of these, I really hope that I've showcased enough of like, hey, we have both someone who can be a damage dealer with these first 3. We have someone who can be a damage amplifier. Then if you just really need the shield, sustain, heal, this last Shackles of Hunger, like, she does it all off of this one card, which is crazy. And that's just the first set of epiphanies. So let's go on to Bottomless Hunger. And this is where we see our first unique, which again is really important for Chaos. 3 Voracity. So this is where we start to see those stacks come into play. The next 2 times Voracity is activated, decrease cost of 1 random card in hand by 1 for 1 turn. And also notably here is her last one, or third one, excuse me, I want to talk about is that when Voracity is activated 3 times a turn, decrease cost of 1 random card until it is used. So this is her cost decrease now base card, meaning for a lot of the expensive vanguards that we've been seeing, right, who have a lot of 2-costed cards. This is a great way for us to make those a little bit cheaper and be more AP neutral. So a lot of people might have been worried about losing out on Mika's AP generation, or maybe if you're trying to use Chizuru and you can't gain AP and you want to get around it, well, now we have a card baked into her kit that says, hey, I can help decrease the cost of everything a little bit more just so that your turns go even further. This reminds me a lot of the Chizuru card that activates 2 cards for other combatants. And by doing that and getting that card for free, as well as combining it with Bottomless Hunger, you can generate a scary amount of AP for a turn, even though that you have Chizuru kind of limiting your AP generation. So this almost feels like a fix, to use that term loosely, for Chizuru, because now we have other ways that is supporting what she wanted to be doing and getting around that. Now, we also have, again, being more damage focused, Bottomless Hunger, the 4th one, for 1 turn plus 100% defense base damage. All of her stuff is just being a own, kit. Being able to boost her own damage is really nice. And then a lead card, which I always love to see because of Magna and because getting to activate cards with lead for free is always really nice with Nexus. 7 Voracity, so just really quickly getting a lot of stacks there. For 1 turn each time Voracity is activated, plus 40% damage amount to the next meal time. So this is really important for her ultimate. Now, I like this card just because it just stacks up Voracity. It's the single highest one that we have so far, knowing that we're going to be burning a lot of those stacks. But Mealtime also becoming just a massive damage nuke, I think is very welcomed, just because it's a card that we're going to want to be using anyways, and especially if there are a lot of ads or if you're farming the bug chaos. This is just a card that you're going to be happy to see because it's going to nuke everything once you go into your mealtime and heal up a big amount. So really like the cost decrease option here. Again, 3 cards that are split for one way, a 4th option here, which is going to be great for boosting your own damage, and then Bottomless Hunger being great for giving us a little bit more room for mealtime. Moving on to Voluntary Control, we have 2 more unique cards here. If Voracity is fewer than 6 stacks, gain 9 Voracity. So, sorry, this is actually the highest one, because I was thinking about the unique ones here. But if 6 or more stacks, gain 3 Predation. So, Predation, again, being a bit more difficult to gain. So, this is where the cards are going to be coming in, be important for making sure you gain the most amount. If Mealtime is in draw pile, move to hand. If it's in graveyard, 3 morale for 1 turn. So, again, want to take a moment here just to appreciate that if we need a big heal, we're able to now get that because Voluntary Control is going to help us move it to hand. Or if it's in our graveyard, and because we're playing controllers, we have a lot of ways to draw through our deck, we're just going to get a 3 morale buff instead. So on top of already having a lot of Voracity, a lot of Predation, giving us, even more damage buffs, we now have one that says, okay, by the way, on top of all of that, get yourself a copy of Voluntary Control to also get more morale. So you can use Mealtime for free, on the turn previous to go into Voluntary Control on your following turn to get a bunch of morale. Now, this one is interesting because this is where I first really feel like we want to see 2 different versions of Voluntary Control. So you copy it before you get your Epiphany because the last 2 are both really good. Voluntary Control, the first one, gives you 10 stacks of Voracity right off the bat. And then select 1 attack cards, 1 predation each time that card is moved to hand. Well, we just came off the Serennial banner, which is really good and one that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. So, yes, if you have Serennial, you have the move lasers, which, of course, all of us really like to be your favorite one. We are now just able to get that near infinite. Now, it is unique. You're only going to be able to choose one of these, but you are going to very quickly be able to stack up that predation every single time because it just says when it's moved to hand. So you're getting it on move. You're getting it on ravage. You are just being able to stack up a ton with Serennial, making Narja going to be her best partner because, again, all this is also going to be boosting her lasers. But again, I didn't want to focus too much on Serennial and just talk about the rest of these cards and kind of where they fit. And of course, for things like Mei Lin, if you want to use her straight cards, those also work really nicely here. But the next one, I am really excited as a Chizuru player. Each time a basic attack card inflicts a hit, 1 Voracity, and plus 50% damage attack to the basic attack cards. This is an absurd amount of damage increase for Chizuru. And now for her basic attack spam, if you do Chizuru, Rei, and Narja, we have nuking amounts worth of damage because each one of those moon slashes is going to hit for 2. And then we're just adding even more on top of this with the Voracity stacks with the basic attack amount that it gets and all the morale buffs beyond that. So we are very quickly going to be getting up to over 2,000% base damage attacks with Chizuru and stacking all this up with her other abilities. That is going to do some wild damage. So very excited to see where this one is now getting into because, yes, it is unique, but this is something that you are going to be able to thin out the deck with, get that upgrade. And again, I would still really like to have the morale buff, or in case the very first one, but I think a lot of people will be focusing on the unique. So this is one that immediately jumps out to me as like, I want to copy Voluntary Control before, or I should say at the boss before it Epiphanies for how good that is. And then getting into the last one, the Domain of Voracity with another unique here. And this one's a lot, but this is effectively going to be her damage nuke ability. And some of these are a little bit expensive for what they are. So we have a 120% damage base. All enemies increases the damage taken until their next Ravage. So damage taken of the target by 100% until their next Ravage. And then on Ravage, 3 Voracity. So a good damage amplification. For 2 turns, 100% defense-based damage taken by the target. Vanguards, you love to see it. Now, Narja is going to be the premier 3rd character, so sorry, Amir, you're getting sidelined. You didn't have much of a spotlight. You can still work with Maribel's OTK, but now for just being able to boost every single Vulture ejection, being able to boost all of the damage that the Vanguards are doing, you can now very easily put together a Calipe Magna Narja team. Yes, this is going to be the all-in 5-star team, but a lot that you can do there. 180% damage when hitting the target for the next 5 times, heal 40%. So again, if you are just doing a multi-hit character, you need a little bit more sustain. This Domain of Victory can be good. Retain effect for Domain, 384% defense-based damage to all enemies. If granted both Voracity and Predation, activate 1 more time. So we talked about so far that Narja has a lot of really great single target based damage effects that she can be self-sustained, self-buffing. And now we also have a AoE based one. So there is really no weakness for single target versus multi-target. Your girl Narja can really do it all. And then we have the Domain of Voracity upgrade. Each time mealtime is used, heal 200%. So you have the attack version in case you need the AoE damage, but if you don't need the AoE damage, then you can just take the Domain upgrade that is going to give you an extra 200% heal on top of that, making this like a 640% heal when it's used, which is far beyond anything that Mika had. So that mealtime, being able to stay in your hand with Retain, I think is just so important and just giving you a massive amount of healing. So we also have her Ego skill, which is going to give you the 5 predation stacks. Now, this is the one thing that I'm going to say about her kit that is negative. I really wish this cost 4 and not 5. And that's it. That is the only negative thing I can say about her kit. The fact that you're getting 5 predation means that this is going to be a huge damage amplification. We're getting 10 stacks of Voracity. So this is just a great ego skill to pop the turn before you go into your big combo plays, because those stacks are going to say deal a lot of damage. Or if you just don't have another ego skill that you want to use, maybe you don't need Nyx to do like the hand filtering on the following turn, you say, okay, huge damage amp whenever I need it, thanks to all of this effects. Because again, keep in mind, Voracity is going to give you the plus 30. Once you heal up, Predation is going to give you the plus 80 for 5 attacks. So this is a 110% damage increase ego skill that you can just pop and use whenever you want. Now again, multi-hitting style of characters are going to get the most of this. Ecstasy of Violence is definitely a card that comes to mind of just a single multi-hit card that can do a lot of damage. I mean, absolutely insane that this can deal for damage. And then, of course, really quickly, we just have her Ego's manifestation as well as her potentials. So plus 10% damage amount to Voracity if her defense is greater than 300. With gear, and once you actually get her to 60, this shouldn't actually be that hard to get. And then plus 20% damage amount to Predation as well. So again, another 30% that's going to happen here. So in a perfect world, when all of this is set up, all the buffs are done, we are talking about a permanent 7 morale boost to this character. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, oh, but Cassius can go up to 1 billion. Keep in mind, Cassius is going to get nerfed in the near future. They are going to rework his kit. So I would not be surprised at all if the how many times that he can loop morale is going to take a massive hit. So this is a very significant amount that we can rely on for Narja to be boosting our damage. So overall, really solid kits. Increased defense, which is nice because she's going to get even more stats that way. And then the 10 critical chance. Now we do have her manifest egos as well going into, and I'm just going to showcase them here. You know, mealtimes predation by 2 is like, okay. The second one, Voracity, decreases 25% chance to gain Voracity. I like it because it makes her a little bit more self-sustaining, but it's not that exciting. Now, E4 giving plus 30% damage amount, right? A morale and a half worth of value. Now, predation is a little bit harder to stack up, keep in mind, but, you know, it's still a nice damage increase. And then for her E6, at the end of the turn, deal 50% defense-based damage to a random enemy and heal 1% health for each predation decreased this turn. That's kind of like a weird, you know, like it's an end of turn, it's an extra heal. Like, I get it, but it's just not that exciting. So now look, I'm not going to say that I'm upset that, you know, her E6 isn't insane. Her E2 is not insane, you know, coming off of like Serenial and some of the other ones, but I will say that, you know, for those that might want to wail out on the characters, this one doesn't hit as much as it did for the other combatants that we've seen so far. This one does feel a little bit worse in that regard. Now, again, as an E0 user, for her, I'm going to be very excited because I think this is going to be a great preview. And then, of course, we also got her partner, and I was already going to be all in for Gaia anyways. And of course, it's really nice to talk about some of the other options, which I'll cover in my full guide. But the one thing that jumped out to me immediately, increasing defense by an amount, of course, is going to be great for potential. But we're just going to talk about the E1 abilities here, or the partner one. So 20% defense-based damage for the assigned combatant's instinct cards. So boosting up all of her damage-based effects. So if you want to build her as a damage dealer, this is going to be pretty important because all of her multi-attack based cards are, well, going to benefit greatly from this. And then when using a unique attack card of the assigned combatant with the original cost of 6, so anytime you use mealtime, plus 20 damage amount to all allies. This is just now a free stack of morale that you get on top of this. And then, of course, 60% defense-based damage times 4, which is just nice damage because she buffs herself, and this will be a pretty decent partner choice. And then draw one of this unit's attack cards. So if you want to build an attack-focused Narja, this partner is going to be pretty important, right? Because otherwise, you're just going to be using Nyx, which is not going to have as much damage-boosting effects, but I think it's still nice for what she wants to be doing otherwise, because Nyx lets you, you know, draw and cycle and find those meal times, which can be really important. But yeah, if you want to build a damage dealer Narja, you're going to need her. But that is going to do it for our full kit breakdown. And again, final thoughts here at the very end. Is she a must-pull? God, I hate to say it, but yeah, she replaces Rey and Mika by combining them into one character. She has a heavy amount of unique cards, making her a very, very, very good, you know, chaos target, like we talked about with Veronica. So especially if you've messed out on Veronica, you want to pull for this character. Having that many uniques, as well as being a massive damage dealer and sustain baked all into one, Narja is going to be able to babysit some other characters that you're running through the chaos, as well as having good uniques, to meaning it is easier to buff up your characters, or copy the right cards, I should say. And then, of course, the buffs that I wanted to mention. Now, no longer has the downside of Rey, where it's very targeted in what you're, you know, amping up. Now, the one possible thing that I will say to maybe balance this take out a little bit is that for the heavy hitters like Haru, you don't have a way to give vulnerable, at least baked into our kit right now. There are a ton of divines and neutral epiphanies and all that stuff that you could get to get stacks of vulnerable, which is what characters like Haru needs by comparison, instead of these little damage increases. But, you know, we can still get that. It's just going to take a little bit of extra work, or maybe take some divines, or maybe there's a couple neutrals, because again, keep in mind, she is a controller, which also means that you have access to the best neutrals in the game. So yes, she's insane. I don't know what else to say at this point for final thoughts. I definitely will be pulling on her. I'm glad that she's only a E0 in terms of importance, but again, her kit is absolutely wild. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you excited for Narja? Are you going to be pulling for this character, or are you like so many who might just be unfortunately broke from Serenial that you just do not have the pulls for her? And do keep in mind, she's not limited, so she will go to the standard banner. So in the future, Narja could bless your account. But let me know in the thoughts down below. That's going to do it for today's video, my friends. So until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.